their children to college, we want to do as much as possible to get that out there to the people, to share with them that there is Crimson Campus Ministry at the university that is supported and is a part of the Northport Church of Christ, a very solid biblical congregation that you can feel great about your children being a part of, and we want your children to be a part of that. And so we started taking this message to summer camps like Indian Creek, like Backwoods, like Maywood, and other places. We took the message to Exposure Youth Camp, where there's thousands of Christian young people and families that attend in Huntsville. We took it to congregational visits in Florida and other states where we were sharing in a more intimate setting there about what's going on here. We also started a very comprehensive social media campaign in a lot of ways, in the sense that we established an Instagram, a Twitter, a Facebook, and I think that's it for now, that was promoting our ministry here. And believe it or not, we have had several young people, both that are members of the church and ones that are not, that have become a part of this here simply because they saw what was happening on Instagram. So obviously it's very important for that to be part of what we are doing. We also took the message to Challenge Youth Conference in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and it's our desire that as time moves forward, that myself, our students, and others will take it to even more places, such as the numerous sites at the Lads to Leaders Convention that's everywhere from Nashville to Hawaii, and to also continue to promote it through word of mouth. One of the best ways that we can get students here is by our young people being trained to talk to their friends about it and to get them to come. And so we certainly want them to do that. So that's how we promoted the ministry. As that year moved on, 2019, 2020, there were a few students who joined. So that gives you an idea of 2019, 2020. And now let's talk about 2020, 2021 as a school year. And I have called this phase growth during the pandemic, because we did see tremendous growth in this second year. So one thing that became obvious, both from my time as a student here when I was in college, as well as observing the campus ministries over the year and getting started in it myself, is how important it was to have an on-campus presence. So it was very important as we moved forward to have a balance where our young people would be encouraged and would be put in situations where they would develop a relationship with you as their congregation, but there would also be a lot going on campus that they could get involved in. And so it was decided at that time that we would begin leasing a house on campus at the University of Alabama. The house that we have on campus is just a couple of blocks from Bryant-Denny Stadium, so it's right there in the heart of the university. It has a field directly across from it where, as we have a lot of students that come to this house, it kind of has built-in parking there, which if you've been on the university recently, you have seen what an issue parking can be. So the house itself, for time's sake, I'll keep this brief, but it has been a tremendous blessing for us. It is a completely renovated 4-bedroom, 4-bath house that 3 of our male students, our male leaders, live in. They have their own bedroom and bathroom, and then in addition to that, there is a nice living room, and there's a couple of rooms where there's a pool table and a ping pong table and snacks and drinks, and just a great area for them to spend time together in. Full kitchen, a good eating area. In the backyard is a covered back porch, a grill area, a fire pit, a nice sized yard. And so it has just been a tremendous blessing to have that on campus, because it gives us a base. And it gives us a location where students on campus who would not come across the river are coming there and are participating, and many of them, as they participate there, end up coming here to the church building as well. Part of this realization was as we would do Get On Board Day, where we would be talking to students at the university. Almost always the immediate question was, what are you doing on campus? And if you weren't doing it on campus, you might as well be in Timbuktu because they were not coming, okay? And many of them don't even have cars on campus and can't have cars on campus. And so this just became a huge blessing. I was able to get in touch with one of the campus ministers at another congregation in town and to ask about, hey, is there something that I've heard that there's something that the university provides that gives a list of the students that are members of the Church of Christ that are coming into town. That campus minister shared that with me, and in the midst of the pandemic, as we were getting this house, I called every single one of them. I mean, I don't know how many was on that list, but it was hundreds and hundreds. And the idea was this: tell them what's going on, tell them what's here, tell them we want them to be a part of this, and see what happens, okay? Because if you put yourself in the shoes of those young people coming to the university, okay, it can be incredibly anxious to think about not knowing anybody, to be in a totally new town, not knowing anybody in the congregation, to show up here at Northport or to show up on campus, the Crimson Campus Ministry, and not know anybody. Well, as a result of that, we did have a lot of growth. We got a lot of students that came in as freshmen and transfers that were members of the church, and we also, to some degree, in a surprising way, started having a lot of participation from students outside the church as well, which was and is a really good blessing. So also during that year, we established student officers as part of the process to try to become a student organization at the university. They require you to have student officers. So we wanted to do that anyway, but as you think about the vision for the ministry long term, it's very difficult for one person or even a group of people that are adults to totally lead the ministry. In fact, I would say in many ways it's not healthy for that to be the case. These people are adults. They are growing in their faith. They need to be put in a position where they are encouraged and motivated to lead. And so the vision was, as I have seen other models of this at other places, such as the social clubs at Freed-Hardeman University and other places where the students almost entirely lead the organization, we wanted to be pushing it in that direction. So we grew a lot in that year. We established student officers. We had a lot of growth and diversity. And finally, at the end of that year, we were approved as a student organization at the university, which was very, very important because it gave us access to those lists of students that are coming in that are members of the church, allowed us to participate in Get On Board Day, allowed us to do intramural sports, and a whole host of other benefits. So we were really happy for that to happen, and it was a rigorous process. Very quickly, and I'm going to turn it over to our students. So looking at 21-22, this school year, we had another great recruiting class, and one thing that was unique about this year as compared to last year was we started having what you might call a lot of competition from other things going on at UA. We didn't realize it necessarily at the time, but in 2020, we were kind of in the sweet spot where we were not an official student organization, so we didn't have to, necessarily follow the guidelines that the student organizations were putting out during the pandemic. We continued to meet, and yet we became a student organization, and so we kind of got the benefit of both directions. But the university started bringing back all that they were doing, okay? The sororities, the fraternities, the organizations, sports were full on. And so we realized that in 2020, 2021, there wasn't nearly as much going on. And so some of the fringe participation that we had went away as a result of that coming back and there being a lot more distractions. But in many ways, that has been a great thing for our organization and for our students because it's created an even better environment. So we want to continue to develop our student leaders, do things that we haven't done yet, like sports teams and being more involved in community service. We want to increase the involvement from you here at Northport and get more and more people involved. And as I've talked about, we have a lot of students who are participating who have not been baptized and are not part of the church, and we want to be moving them in the direction of learning what's necessary to be baptized, being baptized, and then leading them on that road of spiritual maturity. And we're really excited about that. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Lathan, who's going to talk about why CCM is important for UA students like him. And at this time, if Sawyer and Bo will pass around cards and pens, if anybody has a question that you would prefer to write down for the end of the presentation, raise your hand and Bo and Sawyer will pass those out.
I feel like I've been up here a few times before. You probably know who I am. But my name is Lathan. This is my second year serving as president for the Crimson Campus Ministry. I'm from Decatur, Alabama. There's about, about 2 hours north of here, up I-65. And before I start, so I was born here in Tuscaloosa at DCH in 2002. And while my dad finished college, we went to Cottondale. So I'm going to pause there and then kind of move forward a little while. In July of 2020, I got off work one day. I was sitting in my recliner at home, real tired because I had been working all day. And I get a call from a 205 number, and I'm like, who is this? Yeah, and then I answer, and they say, hey, is this Lathan? Anytime anybody ever does that, it's never good. And so turns out it's Charles, and I start talking to him. He's telling me about church at Northport, the group, and I talked to him for a while. I joined the group, and I'm like, okay, just for a while, really, I thought coming in, I knew people that went to Tie for Christ. I talked to their minister, and I had like a shirt and a hat and everything, and I was like, I'll probably just end up going there, and I'll enjoy it, whatever. And so the first Sunday I was down here, I came to Northport, and then I never went anywhere else. So I kind of stayed, and it ended up working out, and I've loved my time here. But I say that to say, when we went to Cottondale, when Charles was talking to me that day, he knew like everybody that goes to a Church of Christ in Tuscaloosa, he knew somebody in my family, which I've met so many people here, and they're like, yeah, we knew you when you were little, and I'm like, I don't know who you are, but it's just because we were here at one point. But I don't remember any of it. We moved a couple times and ended up in Decatur ever since I was 8 years old. But the word I want to focus on is support. And why the Crimson Campus Ministry is important for students like me is because of support. And there's a few things I want to focus on because I don't have that much time. And I don't want to take too much away from what Wesley's point is, which is about how the church here at Northport is important for students like us. But I can't talk about how the campus ministry group itself is important without talking about the importance of this congregation. Because whether it's like Brother Greg offered me a job last year, my first year down here, and giving me help in that way, or me and Jordan and Dwayne going and working out every week, or every now and then I'll find Andy after a Sunday and be like, hey Andy, I need you to take me to eat, and he will. And just things like that. I've developed so many great relationships here, and I love that. But also, it's given me an opportunity to be involved in this church and to be able to lead worship. I have the first Sunday of every month to lead worship. I'm able to teach class here, or not here, but at our campus house on Wednesdays, and we get great feedback from that. And I love what I'm able to do. And I've been able to go on trips and meet a lot of the youth and a lot of their parents and get to know them as well. But the support that we get, whether it's from the adoptive student family, or just from the relationships that we form, that's what's important for students like us coming to this ministry. Because a lot of us we bring baggage from the churches that we come from back home. And there's there's things that we come from a home church where maybe we didn't like everything that was going on, or there was something happening. We were looking for a new start. And I know that's the case for a lot of students that come here. It was the case for myself. And while everything wasn't perfect, my first year here, what it's turned into has been something great. And because you just have to keep your head down, you have to trust God and know that if you try to put yourself in the situations where you know He's going to make you grow and where you know He's going to be able to help you, then it's going to work out. So that's all I have. But it's very important for students like myself to find organizations like this. And also, I have a sister who's 2 years younger than me, who's coming here next year, and she'll end up here as well, and follow me and, just trying to hang out with us, because she's already texted me about that, saying, hey, can I hang out with you and your friends? But, so I guess I gotta handle that. But I thank each and every one of you who has made an impact in my life since I've been here, who has taken the time to just introduce yourself to me or to talk to me or really anything of the sort. And I really enjoyed my time here. I still have 2.5 years more left, or who knows, because school is just like that. But I thank you all, and I'll turn it over to Wes.
Good morning. So the other day, Charles called me up and asked me if I could talk to y'all a little bit about why the Northport Church is important to students like me. And, well, before I get into that, I'm going to take a step back, and I'm going to tell you who I am. I've met some of y'all before, but my name's Wesley Betterton. I'm from Decatur, Alabama, too, which is where Lathan's from. Freshman at the University of Alabama, and I'm the head of the men's spiritual life for the Crimson Campus Ministry. And now, I say all that to tell you that I'm a normal college student, and so I hope by talking to you a little bit about why Northport is important to me, that we can reflect on that, and that's why it's important to other students. So, but let me get to the point. I think probably the most important reason Northport is important to students like me is because it's a home. Northport is a place where I can come and feel safe to praise the Lord and be in fellowship with other like-minded Christians. And while that sounds somewhat like a simple thing, it's not. I think we underestimate and overlook that sometimes, that, we get to come here and praise the Lord safely. And, there are places all over the world. We have people at University of Alabama from all over the world who can't do that. And I think that that's a major bonus and that we need to capitalize on that. But another thing about being a home that Northport does is it makes me feel like I belong when I'm here. Because, we have students from Florida, we have students from Georgia, we have students from, at least 10 hours away come to the Crimson Campus Ministry. And being able to say that, hey, I get to go to a church just across the river where I feel like I belong is such an important thing. And I think one of the major boons of that, or one of the major showings of that, is the adoptive parent or adoptive student program that Charles and Lathan mentioned a little bit. And it's such a major thing that I can have someone here who's a mentor who can teach me a little bit, and not just about, or tell me a little bit about not just school advice or, what I want my major to be or that, but just life advice, because me, Lathan, all of us who are college students, most of us, we're going from being, our teenage years to young adults. And having a mentor to come and help us in that path is such a huge thing. And, there are some things with that. And, and so I encourage y'all to do that adoptive parent or adoptive student program and to be adoptive parents. And even if you can only meet with your adoptive student once or twice, every 6 months, that's okay. Because even just the reaching out and texting me every so often lets me know that, I belong here and that someone takes interest in me, and that's huge. And so I guess in closing, the most important thing about Northport is that it makes me feel home, like it's a home. It's a place where I can come and I can worship safely with other like-minded Christians. Thank you.
All right, so I'll ask Wesley and Lathan to go ahead and come up here with me. There may be questions from the participants in the class today that they may have for them specifically or for me, and so we're ready to field those. Sawyer and Bo have passed around cards and pens. Guys, let me know if there are anybody who has turned those in. We also have the microphone if we need to take it to anybody who wants to ask a question out loud, but we're ready to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Any questions? Yeah. Yes, ma'am. Will you take this? You take that. Stillman, that's a great question. So Kim has asked, do we also do like a get on board day at Shelton and Stillman? When I started the campus ministry here, right from the beginning, for me, it was important that, because I have seen campus ministries that, whether it was true or not, it appeared like they were totally UA and paid no attention to Stillman or Shelton. And so it was important for me that as we got started, that we don't forget about them, because they are also two colleges that are here in town that also have Christian young people and people outside the church that we need to be reaching out to. So I think that's very, very important. As time has gone on, here's the honest truth, okay? As I've shared with you today, we have a lot of accomplishments, okay? There's been a lot of growth. There's been a lot of great things happening, okay? At the same time, there's also a ton of things that I could share with you that have not happened yet that I want to happen, okay? There are things at the university that we're not doing that I want us to do as time moves on. And as part of things that I want to happen, I want us to have more of a presence at Shelton and Stillman. But the truth is, and the reality is, that up to this point, it has been a huge deal just for what's happened at UA to take place. And there's still a ton of progress to make at UA. And so from a time perspective and from an involvement perspective, there are several more things that I want to happen at UA, okay? And once we accomplish that, then my next goal is going to be, okay, now what are we going to do at Shelton and Stillman? And this will increase as we get more involvement from you and as our student officers continue to do more and more, and as the student leadership and involvement expands beyond them. Because the more people we get involved, the more jobs that we can give people to do, and the more outreach we can do, which will include Shelton and Stillman. So I hope that answers your question. So the answer is no, but we want to. Other questions?
Ready.
There's somebody over here. Who is it? Okay.
Do you have a selective process that you use if you sign up for adoptive parents? Do you have any way that you match the student to the person who signs up?
Yes, ma'am. We've had both members at Northport as well as students, who have been very interested to make sure that I do my best to try to pair people who are a fit. A couple of examples of this that I can think of, we had one member here who really loved to fish, and so I tried to pair them with somebody who liked to fish. We had another member here who loved to knit things, and I knew a student that also liked to knit things, so we tried to pair them together. So it doesn't always 100% work out that way, but we look at, okay, these are the people from Northport who have volunteered, and this is what they're interested in. Here's our list of students and what they're interested in. Let's do the best we can to match them up. So we try the best we can. Good, Nick. Sure. So if you couldn't hear Nick basically referenced what I talked about earlier, that on any given night or thing that we do, you look around amongst us, okay, And not only are there significant members of the church, but there could easily be, an atheist or an agnostic, a Catholic, a Protestant. So there could just be a huge richness of religious and non-religious diversity that are in our Bible studies and are in other things that we're doing. And so what do we do with that? And that's a great question. What I will say from a generational perspective is that it seems like that people of this generation, whether they are in the church or whether they're out of the church, they value and appreciate authenticity, being real, being open, and so we just don't hold back. We study the Bible, we address topics that are sensitive and that are not sensitive, and whatever comes, hey, if that brings up a question that they have, or that brings up a spirit of debate that could arise, we're prepared for that and we embrace that. One of the things that we're focusing on now is, okay, we've had a lot of students who are significantly involved and are not baptized. Okay, well, now what are we going to do with that? And so we want to be very proactively moving in the direction of teaching these people what they need to know to be baptized, and then teaching them to develop spiritually beyond that point, and to go beyond just attending and to be baptized and grow in their faith. Yeah, and answer him too.
I'm glad you asked this. So I teach on Wednesday nights, and right now, I'm going through Romans right now. We're almost done. We're doing chapters 11 and 12 this week. And so the whole basis of my class is basically I give an overview of the chapters every week. And we talk about something significant, basically that Paul's saying in Romans for that week. And no matter what we're talking about, there's no specific group we're targeting as far as an aim, like trying to appease left, right, middle, whatever. We just teach what the Bible says. And my aim whenever I talk on a Wednesday night is I present what the Scripture says. I ask questions about it. I say, what do you think about this? This is what I think. This is what I've read. This is what we've studied. And that's a lot of how we present that. And also, like he said, after this, so I'm about to start a series of lessons based off the book of Ephesians. That's called What Now? And it's basically where we brought people to the point where either they're saved, they're about to be saved, and so what now? And we're going to go through the book of Ephesians because Paul talks a lot about the grace we receive from God and our salvation, and then he goes directly into the second half of the book and talks about how we should live as a Christian. So our aim is just to present the Bible, just present the words of Jesus, present how it is written, what it was written for, with no bias, with no judgment against it. And that's what we want our people to see when they come in.
Nick, for me personally, through this process and the diversity that my audience has become, I have fallen in love with expository preaching and teaching. One of the reasons I've fallen in love with that, and what that means is you teach through a book of the Bible, verse by verse. One of the reasons I've fallen in love with it is because whatever comes next, it wasn't my idea, it was the Bible's, And so if there's a topic that is sensitive to some of the people in the room, it's not like I targeted it, and just randomly chose it. That's what came next in the Bible. And so I've fallen in love with that as a process. I think we can take one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I live in the house this year. Wes is taking my spot next year. The way we did this was we presented, all right, so he was just like, hey, we're going to have, last year it was 3. One ended up being 4 because one of them moved out, but at first it was going to be 4. There were 4 of us, and you just submitted a group of guys that you wanted to live with. And he chose a group that whichever one submitted it. It happened to be me, Sutton, and Noah. And we did have another guy, but he ended up dropping off. And so basically it's just a submission process. You submit names. Charles decides from that who wants to live there, and then that's how it is. And then we end up signing a contract, and then we lease it through that. And so I'm moving out after this in July. So Wesley and then Ross Bozeman, who comes to our stuff on Wednesday nights, who's from Winfield, he is moving in. And then Noah is staying there. So I feel like this year was a little different kind of in the process. He kind of handpicked, kind of asked, who wants to live here? If you would like to, we have some guys moving out. Do any of y'all want to move in? And that's kind of how that took place this year.
From my perspective, the way that it takes place is, so obviously if you think about it, if there's more people that want to live there than there are rooms for them to live in, that could create a little tension. So the way that we do it with fairness is we start with our highest student leader, okay? Does the president want to live there, okay? The president of the student organization. If he does, then he and the two people that he wants to live with him live there. If he doesn't, go to the vice president, treasurer, down the list. So that's how we create a sense of fairness where it's not like, oh, Charles likes you better, so he lets you live in the house, if that makes sense. It's time for us to dismiss, but as we dismiss, I hope that through what we've shared with you today, you see this is a wonderful thing for our people who grew up here. This is a tremendous blessing for Christians all over the world that come to the University of Alabama, and it is a huge mission work in our own backyard that we're going to start seeing baptisms and fully devoted followers of Jesus Christ as a result of. Thank you very much.